Hello everyone, welcome to QNAP live broadcast. I'm Sam, and the topic for today is our newly born TS-X77XU. Well, you might wonder that we have already introduced the new product, the TS-X77XU, in the early of June. Why do we have to bring this topic back again? Because, well, we have upgraded the processor of our NAS with the AMD Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 7. So we have our PM David today here will tell us which part we have upgraded the TS-X77XU. Also, with the newly coming up QTS 4.3.5, is there any new features or is there any new functions that can fit our X77XU? So let's go to the slides first. And as the previous X77XU, we have Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, and we have already highlighted the spec after each of the processor. We can check now the Ryzen 3 is still using a spec 1200, but we have upgraded the Ryzen 5 into 2600 and Ryzen 7 into 2700. So basically, we use the newer processor spec to upgrade whole of our Ryzen 5 and 7. So now we're going to check the product range, and still there are something changed. We can see started from the bracket mount type. We still have TS9 bay, which is 4 of the 3.5-inch plus another 5 of the SSD trays. So you can use it to run our Q tier to get a faster read and write speed. And we still have the original TS8 bay 77XU come with single power and redundant power. Also the 9 bay has the redundant power too. And for the TS12 bay, 16 bay, 24 bay, we now only have the redundant power SKU because we think that since this is the rack mount type, and for the business enterprises will use the rack mount type started from 12 bay, they will take care about the power supply very carefully. So we only have the redundant power SKU for everyone. Also, we have the tower type TS1677X and 1277, 877, and 677 all comes with SSD and hard disk mixed together. So David will tell us what is the most important point of the change to the processor.
Okay, so just like Sam mentioned, in I think early of June, we already have a video to introduce the X77XU, but at that time the 77XU equipped with the Ryzen 1600 and 1700. But during the process, AMD has launched the newer processor with better spec. The key change of the spec is with the 2700, you can see over here has better clock rate of the processor. The maximum boost clock from the 3.7 gigahertz to 4.1 gigahertz in the compared to 1700 and 2700, and for the 1600 and 2600, the clock boost from the 3.6 gigahertz to the 3.9 gigahertz. And even though the clock rate is higher, but you can see the TDP, you can refer it as the power consumption is exactly same. And so we decide before the product launch, we want to change the processor from the 1700 to 2700 and from the 1600 to the 2600.
Okay.
So that takes a little bit time for us to do the test again to ensure, to guarantee the product reliability and everything. So that's why we call it kind of reborn.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And here are all the SKUs from the 8 bay to the 16 bay. For the 8 bay, 12 bay, and 16 bay, we are going to launch very, very soon. And you can see the yellow number here. That means the processor. So, for example, in the 8 bay SKUs, you can see 1200 and also the 2600. And equipped with no matter 4 gig or 8 gig memory. And for the 16 bay, you can see we have 2700. So this is just giving you an update of all the SKU from 8 bay to 16 bay. And just like what I say, 8 bay, 12 bay, and 16 bay is going to launch very, very soon. And for the 1U 9 bay, it's gonna be launched around September to October, and we have single power supply SKU and redundant power supply SKU in the 1U 9 bay. And for the 4U 24 bay, it's gonna launch around September to October. So we offer only redundant power supply in the 3U and 4U. Okay. So that's a quick overview of all the SKUs in the X77XU. And for the whole series, it supports up to 64 gigabyte memory. I think it's quite useful. Yeah, and also quite useful for those people who want to use the virtualization station and who wants to have container station, have a lot of containers or virtual machines, because memory is quite important. So in all the X77XU series has 4 long DIMM, and they are all dual channel. Dual channel means if you want to have better performance, you would better to install a pair of the memory at once. And in case some people may have to install only one memory, and there is a small limitation for the installation. If you install only one module, please do remember to install this module in the A0 slot. And of course, if you want to, if you have a pair of the memory module, remember to install 2 modules in the same color and start with the A0. So if you have 2 modules, install the 2 modules in slot A0 and B0, so you can get the benefit from the dual channel. Okay. And QNAP offers memory accessories. It starts from 4 gig and 8 gig and also the 16 gig. And you can just purchase the memory from QNAP in case you want to upgrade your capacity of the memory. And some people or some customers, they may need higher capacity memory. So if you still remember those SKUs, we offer 8 gig and 4 gig. But some customer may ask, could you please ship the NAS with 64 gig? Okay, we are going to offer this kind of service. So if you need more capacity of the memory, like a 64 gig for each SKU, just tell our sales, and we can customize the memory size for you. But it's a CTO SKU, configured to all the SKU, so it takes a little bit longer lead time for all of this SKU. And we're going to offer 16 gig, 32 gig, and 64 gig. And for the 16 gigabyte, it's gonna equip with a 4 gigabyte memory. And for the 64 gigabyte, we are going to fully install with the 16 gigabyte memory. So this is customized memory service.
Okay, so we have done the important part of the X77XU, and then next we will check the hardware introduction of the NAS. So since we have already introduced this spec in the early June, so we will not do the live demo again. If you are interested in how to install the SSD, you can go and check the previous video. So we will just take a briefly introduction to the new hardware introduction.
Yeah, sure. Because we introduced this hardware before, and it's just like a recall, just help you to remember all the specifications of the X77XU. Okay. For the 1U, it's a total new design. We have 4 3.5-inch bay in front, and inside we have 5 2.5-inch SSD ports inside. So which means before you cannot do, I shouldn't say cannot, you can do tiering and the SSD cache, but you have only 4 hard drive bit, right? But with the new design, it's easy. We have 5 internal 2.5-inch SSD port, so that could help you to create no matter QT or SSD cache, or you want to have a dedicated high-speed SSD wallet. It is possible in 1U right now. And this is the specifications of the 1U. We have 4 long slots, just like what I mentioned before. We have 4 USB 3.0 ports, 2 10 gigabit ports as SFP Plus interface. We also have 1 USB 3.1 port and 2 gigabit network port. Mm-hmm. And this is how you install the SSD. Yes, those are the steps. Of course, the first step is remove the top cover. And there is 1 screw on each 2.5-inch tray. Just remove the screw and you can just take out the 2.5 tray directly and put the 2.5-inch SSD into the tray and fasten the screw and then put it back. Mm-hmm. So done. That's how we install the 2.5 SSD in the 1U model. And this is the 2U, 3U, and 4U X77U from View. And there is one thing I need to mention to you. For the 2U model and 3U, 4U, they have different tray. 2U, 8-bay and 12-bay, they have the same tray, so you can just replace directly. But 3U and 4U, they have different tray. And this is also the front view. There is a power button at the right side. There is a ear, which help you to mount the whole NAS into the rack. Mm-hmm. And there is a power button inside there and 3 LED indicators over there. And this is the real view of the NAS for the 2U, 3U, and 4U. Mm-hmm. At the right side, we have redundant or single power supply. And then the next is the PCI slot. Mm-hmm. And also we have 2 gigabit network port, 4 USB 3.0 Type A port, 1 3.1 USB 3.1, and 2 SFP Plus 10G port. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of PCI slot. Yeah. So those PCI slot is pretty useful. It can help you to do a lot of things. Just like if you need more network bandwidth, you can install 10 gig or 40 gig network adapter into those slots. So that can increase your network bandwidth. And for example, if you don't have enough capacity, hard drive capacity, you need more, you don't have to purchase another NAS. Just install the SAS expansion card and you can connect to the REXP expansion unit. You can expand your capacity.
And basically, I think we only have the 9-bay can install the SSD, right? So mm-hmm. for 8-bay, 12, 16, and 24, if you need the QTR function, can they also use the QM2 with 10G base T? No. Oh, sorry, the QM2 card with the M.2 SSD?
Yes, it is possible. Mm-hmm. And also, even though we have 3.5-inch tray mm-hmm. in the front, but you can still install 2.5-inch SSD.
Oh, I see. There. So this is a figure. Okay?
Yes.
So if you are using 8-bay or to 24-bay, you can still install the 2.5 SSD inside of each of the tray, right?
Yes, right. Okay, and these are the PCI slots. Mm-hmm. And for 1U, 2U, it supports only low-profile PCI adapters. Uh-huh. And for the 3U and the 4U, it supports full high PCI adapters. Mm-hmm. Those are the numbering from right to left as 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm. So it's ordered by which is more closer to the power.
Yes. Okay. From right to left. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we have flexible PCI allocation in mm-hmm. those 4 PCI slots. So it supports PCI Gen 3 by 2. There are 2. Mm-hmm. And if you install 4 PCI adapters, so it can become PCI Gen 3 by 4, mm-hmm. 4 slots. So why we want to have this kind of design? Because some of the GPU, they need higher bandwidth, and but those powerful GPU normally have double width of the PCI slot, right? So you can install those powerful GPU card in the slot like number 2 and number 4 to get higher bandwidth. But because the width is double size, so you cannot install anything on the slot number 1 and 3. So we offer this kind of flexibility. If you need to higher bandwidth, just install those cards in number 2 and number 4. Remember to leave number 1 and number 3 slot empty. If you have a lot of thingy card or USB or QM2 or 40 gig, you can just install them from number 1 to 4, and you will get PCI Gen 3x4 bandwidth for each slot.
Of course.
Okay. And it's the same in the 4U, but just a little bit different here. The PCI Gen 3 by 8. And before that was number 2 and 4 in the 2U and 3U, but in 4U, PCI Gen 3x4 slots are located at number 2 and 3. Okay. Yeah. Oh, this is the dimension of the supported dimension for those PCI adapters. Since in case some people want to use the GPU card, because some of the GPU card they don't follow the PCI specifications, because of the heatsink or fan or the cover. So sometimes it's a little bit bigger than the standard than the PCI specifications. So this is the reference for you when you want to choose or want to buy a GPU card. You can refer the dimension and purchase proper GPU card for your application. Okay. Since we talk about the GPU, some powerful GPU card they require external power. So for 3U and 4U NAS, we have optional. It's not optional. It's already built in. We have power connector for those kind of GPU card, but we don't have this kind of connector for the 2U because those GPU card normally high.
Okay.
You cannot install those cards in the 2U low profile NAS. And what can we do with those GPU cards? I think there are 3 key applications in QNAP. The first one is AI computing acceleration, and the second one is it can help you to do the video encode and transcode acceleration, and the third one is the virtualization station. You can do the GPU pass-through. Let's go over those applications one by one. And the first one is AI. QNAP has a QAI. It's just like a platform. It's a QBKG. It helps you to build up the software platform very, very quickly. So with the X77XU, we support GPU card and also the QAI QBKG app. So it can help all the AI developers build up all the platform quickly. Don't have to waste a lot of time in finding out open source software and from start from scratch everything. It helps you to speed up your AI training process. Okay. And the second part is video encode and transcode. There are a lot of applications in the QNAP NAS, just like hybrid desk station, Uni station. You can play videos, or QVR Pro client in the HD station. You can just live monitor those videos. With the GPU card and the support of the GPU card, it can help you to accelerate the video encode and decode. It can let you have more smooth and multiple people connect to the server and see the video in a very, very smooth way. And this is the virtualization station with the GPU pass-through function. I think it's a well-known function for the QNAP fans, but there's a little bit different in the X77XU series. Before we support only one GPU card. So some customers, they may ask, how if we want to have GPU pass-through for 2 VMs before, for the hardware limitation? No, but with the X77XU, it is possible. That means multiple VM can have this kind of GPU pass-through function, not limited to only one VM only. Okay, and then all the X77XU series, recommend series, we have toolless rail kit. It support 8-bay, 16-bay, and 24-bay. And please be aware of the max load. The max load means when you pull the rail to the maximum length, what is the weight to support? So for the rail B02, its maximum load is 20 kilogram. That means it can support you to pull out the A77 or 1277 out of the rack fully. Yes, right. So the benefit of this is, if you want to upgrade your memory, if you want to install or replace the PCIe card, you don't have to take out the heavy NAS from the rack. Just pull it out, remove the top cover, and then you can do the hardware upgrade easily. That's pretty helpful for the IT administrators.
Yes.
Okay. For the 3.1 10 gig port, I think it's useful for some people. They still used to use external hard drive to transfer data. No matter you want to back up data from NAS to the USB drive, or you want to import data from the USB drive to the NAS. For the USB 3.1, it's high speed, so that means the backup job can be done more quickly than before. And we have QNAP Pro. It's a surveillance app. So the key for the surveillance, one is the overall performance, and the other one is the capacity. We have 4U 24-bay, and we support 3U 16-bay. That means you can store a lot of videos and recordings in our NAS. So it's a good application for the surveillance system. And we talk about the 10 gig port, and in the X77XU series, we use Melnax CX4 10 gig controller. And we call this controller is a SmartNIC controller because it supports ISR. So ISR is a offload function. The function is because in the 10 gig era means you have more and more data comes from the internet compared with the before the gigabit network. So your CPU will deal with those packets or data more. But with the CX4 in the ISR function, the CX4 controller will offload some of the job from the CPU. So your CPU can handle and deal with more other tasks. So that's why we call this is a SmartNIC. ISR is iSCSI extension for RDMA. If you're doing the iSCSI without ISR, without using ISR, use iSCSI, there is a green part here, so a circuit layer, a network driver. That means when the packet passes through there, CPU has to deal with all the packet. But with ISR, or we say RDMA function, and from the data will transfer from the memory to the Ethernet 5 directly. So it will bypass that part because the controller is going to do that for you, for your CPU. So your CPU can handle more other jobs or more other tasks. This is just a quick overview of the performance. It can support, because there are two 10 gig ports, it supports, I think, 1,500 megabyte. It's over 15 gigabit network transfer speed. Okay, if you still remember, we have a virtual QTS app. And before the virtual QTS app is supporting the TS-X77 tower models. And since we are X77 family, so of course the X77XU supports virtual QTS. So with the virtual QTS is just leverage the virtualization station function, you can have a virtual machine in the virtualization, and the virtual machine is just our QTS. So that means you are going to have, you can have multiple virtual NAS in a physical NAS. So it's pretty useful. In this scenario, in case, let's say there is a company, there are many departments. We have finance department, we have management or engineer departments, and they may only their own NAS to have or to manage their own data. They don't want to mix or share those data to other departments. The first solution is buy more NAS. And with the X77XU or with the virtual QTS function, the IT administrator or manager, you don't have to purchase more NAS.
Yes.
Just one physical NAS and install the virtual QTS app. It's gonna provide you just like multiple NAS for different departments. And for the virtual QTS, because we have huge memory, we have multi-core. The core can up to I think 8 cores, and in the virtualization station, you can give each virtual QTS dedicate memory and capacity, and also the memory, the CPU cores. That means we can guarantee each virtual QTS has enough resource to run the operation.
Of course.
And just like before, there are quantity limitation and some limitation for the virtual QTS. First, virtual QTS is supposed only in the Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 7 SKUs. For the Ryzen 5, it supports up to 2 virtual QTS, and for the Ryzen 7, it supports 4 virtual QTS. Okay. And for the virtualization part, we have stronger CPU. We have up to 64 gigabyte memory. So for sure, it's definitely a good solution for the virtualization station and container station. Higher CPU, higher memory and powerful CPU means you can serve more virtual machines in a single box. Okay. So you can install more Windows servers or Linux servers as a VM into the NAS. So the NAS will be just like an application and data two-in-one solution in a box.
Okay, sure. So that is all the information to our newly coming TS-X77XU. It will start to release in, I think, for maybe beginning of September, and then September and October we will keep releasing this 12 bay, 16 bay, and even like 24 bay, right?
Yes, right.
And since we have also mentioned about the newly QTS 4.3.5, which basically I think will be launched in the end of August or beginning of September. Yeah. So we will also let you know that how can you benefit or improve the performance of your NAS with our QTS 4.3.5 when you installed your SSD. So we will take a little break, and we invited our QTS PM repo here to let us know about the information. Hi, we're back, and I have our PM repo here, and we will just directly go through the SSD over provisioning and our snapshot function. Let's go back to the slides. And since we also have like a whole topic for the over provisioning and snapshot, remote restore, something like that in a previous live broadcast, so we will just tell you about the information briefly. And if you want to get to know more about the detail, please go back to check our QTS 4.3.5 video. So here we go.
Okay. Hello everyone, and it's an honor for me to join the introduction of our latest TS-X77XU. It's very important. This new model we also must introduce the latest 4.3.5, which is including our SSD, for example, over provisioning SSD and cache, write-only cache, and the other snapshot function is important because those models will be majorly targeting business users because it's direct among NAS, and even you have in one NAS have extra SSD slots. And we just want you to know that we have this special new model, especially the 1U units, because the SSD price is falling, and it's important for both the IT manager and the system provider to think about solution to how to utilize the ultra performance of SSD. As you can see from the chart, SanDisk, the SSD vendor that shipped out the first SSD in maybe before 2000 years. Okay, it has the report that right now the SSD price is falling to only 30% compared to 5 years before, and the SSD have a very high random read and write performance compared to the HDD, because you no longer need to use the spanning disk to read the data. You just use the electronic method. So with this trend, we have now in our QNAP NAS, we have provided global SSD cache and Q tier. So IT manager, when they purchase the TS-X77XU, they can choose whether to use SSD cache, Q tier to move data between the SSD tier or HDD tier, or using a all-flash storage system. But still, when IT manager deploying SSD solution, we know they usually encountering some trouble because they will report back to us. One of the major trouble is that the SSD performance will degrade after some time. And we know that different SSD have different controller and garbage collection algorithm. All those reasons will lead up, for example, we have data center SSD, we have consumer SSD. That is also because all those differences will lead to the SSD performance will degrade differently after continued usage. But how can as we are a system provider, as we are the NAS vendor, how can we let user to have the best SSD deployment and using experience, even if the SSD brand has so many brands? So this is why we introduced the software-defined SSD short over provisioning. But before that, let me just briefly introduce you why is over provisioning. So SSD is worked differently in HDD in that, as you can see from the chart, each block, the whole block contains 4 pages. And if you already have some valid and invalid data in the same block, the SSD need to erase the whole block before you write new data. So this lead to, if, for example, this chart, we have 6 new data need to be write, you cannot write those data directly because some block contain both valid and invalid data, and you need to move the valid data to the over provisioning block before new data can be written. So this will causing some kind of phenomenon we call write interface, which actually if you need to write 6 pages of data, you actually need to write 10 pages. But from the right, you can see that we have more over provisioning space in the beginning. In a given time, the SSD can write all those 6 pages of data directly without to conduct the garbage collection ability. So this is why over provisioning is now, it has a default 17% in all the SSD vendor, but we think it's important because users have different scenario and may want to have a higher over provisioning to increase their performance and NAS endurance and SSD endurance. So here the advantage of our extra over provisioning can be seen from the chart. Above is Samsung SSD, which with different software defined as extra over provisioning ratio, and below is a Micron SSD, 2 Micron SSD actually as a red one. You can see that those 2 SSD all can see the benefit of over provisioning because the performance, consistent performance can increase while all more over provisioning space being reserved for garbage collection, and to prevent the SSD from have so many write artifacts that endurance will be decreased.
Sure.
Okay. So choose SSD is hard for for IT manager because we cannot, maybe most of the time we cannot measure the SSD performance on site because the site, we may not know the right method to measure the SSD performance, or we may not have enough time. But right now, choose QNAP is simple because we not only allow users to set the over provisioning amount in the NAS, we also providing a unique tool called SSD profiling tool, which allow the IP manager to directly insert the SSD and run this tool, and it will provide a visualized report, as you can see here, to show the manager in which overprovisioning amount, how much random write performance you can bring. Okay. So with this tool, we know that the IT manager can easily configure the flash storage without to think about how to evaluate the SSD deployment solution with the application. They can just use this tool and decide the target IOPS and overprovisioning amount. So it can be tested on the production side directly in a timely fashion. So here we will just have a quick demo on the SSD profiling tool in our TS-X77XU.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to the demo stream. Okay, here as you can see that this is NAS, the NAS what we introduced, and we just can see the SSD profiling tool. This will be a built-in application in the QTS App Center. And you can see that it already have some tests being conducted before. If we want to create a new task, we just click this button and select the disk we want. And then we can select how many overprovisioning test range we want and how many test data size we want to assign to this application for it to test the SSD consist IOPS. This is a new function, new configuration that we did not introduce in our 4.3.5 preview, because we think that it should be fair that all the overprovisioning phase, whatever how many available space it have to write the same data size. So all the overprovisioning phase can have a result, and the difference between different phase is only on the different overprovisioning amounts. So here, because we have already some test report, we just cancel. And here directly we can see that there's already a test complete with a Samsung SSD A5U port. And you can see that here the results showing that with the additional overprovisioning, the consist random write RPS for this RAID file can be increased doubles compared to with no overprovisioning. And you see that it writes data written here, 40% is about 600 gigabytes, and here you only write also write 600 gigabytes. So the total data write size is the same, but this chart, this red line is shorter because we are higher overprovisioning. It can write all the data in a shorter time. So we have provided this configuration for user to identify the best overprovisioning amount. And here, of course, different SSD will show different behavior when using our SSD profiling tool. So we have provided this tool so every SSD can test the overprovisioning configuration directly on their production size. So this is just a simple review of the SSD overprovisioning tool in our latest model.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back to the slides.
Okay, so the next part will be what will be that? Let's check.
Okay, so next part, because we have finished the overprovisioning introduction, the overprovisioning can be utilized on both our SSD cache as well as Q tier or flash storage port. So first, in our global SSD cache, we might already notice we have read-only read-write cache, but right now in 4.3.5, we also provide a new write-only cache. This write-only cache is important because it's promoted firstly by Microsoft to using an NVMe SSD as a cache for the flash storage to control the endurance of the SSD data rate. But we think this write-only cache can also be applied to the application or the server that have a intense write demand. For example, file server, for example, IoT monitoring server, which continually receive all the log from different device. Or the other scenario can also utilize this. So we have provided the write-only cache to increase our SSD cache capability in handling different scenario. Okay. Secondly, also we have the Q-tier auto-tiering compared to the other SMB NAS comparator. In the Q-tier, not only allow the frequency access data can be placed in an SSD tier, and to increase the performance, we also allow the SSD space can be utilized, because we all know that in SSD cache, the data is for recache, the data is copied to the SSD cache, and the SSD capacity is actually not used to store data. Okay, so we have the Q-tier solution also if your access pattern is more depending on schedule or have a fixed pattern. And still, we Q-tier 2.0, which we introduced in the last 4.3.4. We know that our Q-tier will also reserve 20 to 25% of space to conduct real-time data block per mode or demode, to let it have a same behavior as the cache to conduct real-time performance increases. So for users who wish to utilize the SSD capacity while want to have the real-time performance boost, the Q-tier 2.0 can also satisfy your requirement.
Sure.
Okay. So here is just a simple table to demonstrating how with the TS-X77XU, the SSD solution can be deployed. We can see that for example, a small file server, the write intensive application is not required. We can use ResCase with basic overprovisioning amount of 10% to increase the SSD endurance. While if we use the more writing intensive application, for example, the surveillance, backup, or log servers, we might consider to use a more advanced, for example, write-only cache with RAID 10 with a higher overprovisioning amount. Because in before, even we have so many camera, we have so many clients need to back up, we may not consider to use SSD because the SSD size and endurance is maybe limited. But right now, with the over-provisioning amount, we can ensure that SSD have enough endurance while can boost all those client data transfer. So here is just a table which shows some scenario. And one thing I want to point out is that with this, right now we have TS-X77XU, which is actually is a 1U NAS with 5 additionally 5 SSD slots. SMB IT manager can easily using our SSD solution, even only have a 1U space in a data center. Yes. Okay, so after introduce the SSD solution, we have also provide the backup solution in a 4.3.5 that can reduce IT manager RTO. Is that right now our snapshot support restore from remote snapshot, because as before, for example, a survey is conducted in our in Taiwan, so they have 300 business, but half of them cannot reach their RTO targets. This is not only because the restore speed, but also because sometimes the procedure of moving the backup data back to the source is very complex. But right now, as you see in the screenshot, user when you using snapshot replica to back up your snapshot to another NAS, right now in Snapshot Manager, you can directly select that remote NAS and copy data or revert the whole volume or long back to the source NAS in a unified interface. So this can save IT manager time in manager backup and restore the backup data and further decrease the RTO. And if we have a higher speed network, this of course can also dramatically reduce the RTO, the time required to recover data, because you don't need to pull your data transfer from using the other protocol. You can just use our snapshot replicas block-based protocol to revert all the data block through the network back to the source NAS. Sure. Okay, so still, if you do not have a faster network, we still provide the full way to revert your data is snapshot export and import. Right now, our snapshot and snapshot flow in 4.3.5 will both supporting the snapshot export, which our snapshot will be stored as an image file, and you can store it in an external RAID device or just a USB and port it to the source NAS and import the snapshot as a new file, new long, or revert the original file. Sure. So here, QTS 4.3.5, we have unleashed our NAS power of the storage, because we have the software-defined SSD extra over provisioning. We have the SSD global cache and Q-tier, and finally we improve the backup solution. We are a remote snapshot restore and the snapshot import and export and import. So all those features will be available in our 4.3.5 when TS-X77XU release. And one important news is next week we will have the open beta for 4.3.5 as well.
Sure.
So for all of you who want to try this new function, it should be available next week. And if you want to understand more, we have separating live streaming slides about over-provisioning, about snapshot in previous live streaming. So you can also check out those slides if you want it.
Okay, so I will make a conclusion for the benefits of using the TS-X77XU with the QTS 4.3.5. We upgraded the CPU from for Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 7 with a higher clock speed, and then now we can offer you a better GPU installation. Of course, after that you can run your AI or run your VQTS more better. Like for the Ryzen 5 can run 2 of the virtual QTS, Ryzen 7 can run 4. And we have also provided the ref mount type, which can have the weight loading up to 90 kilograms. And then since we are having a bigger storage size, and we can now run QBR Pro without doing the backup or doing the expansion unit. Of course, we have supported SmartNIC, which can run the ICER, so it will be much more faster when you are transferring data from NAS to NAS. And since we can support 2 of the 10G SFP Plus port, and as in the previous slides, you can see the read and write speed are reached like 1,500 per second, megabyte per second. And since the 4.4.5, we can support the SSD over provisioning, so it will enhance your read and write speed and stable the read and write speed. Of course, since we have to better adjustment to your SSD can lengthen your SSD lifetime. And of course, we now provide you the SSD profiling tool, so you can test your own SSD and get the best over provisioning percentage by yourself. And of course, the newer QTS provides the snapshot load, and now you can do the remote site recovery with all your snapshot to lower down your RTO. Am I right?
Yes,
that's good. So yeah, I was like very concentrated.
So many notes.
Yeah. So that is all the benefit of using our TS-X77XU with the newly released QTS 4.3.5. So let's go back to the live. If you want to know more about the introduction to this video, please go here, go to live.qnap.com and choose the video today, and you will see more introduction. You can do the playback to each of the part, or just click on the PowerPoint slide, which will show on your right hand side, and the video will be led into that time. And if you want to know more about the snapshot and SSD over provisioning, please check the keyword QTS 4.3.5 and you will see more detailed introduction. And thank you for your coming today report to show us the new application and let us know the detail about the SSD provisioning. So we will see you next time on QNAP Live broadcast. Bye bye.